What happens to the people that
One of
don't wake up to a higher consciousness?
That's a really good question. And there's lots of different theories on that. Some people believe that we're going to shift sort of into two different timelines, and the people that are, awakening are going to go sort of to one version of Earth, and the people that aren't are going to go to another. And not that it's right, wrong, bad, or good, but that we're just going to kind of separate into two different realities is what I'm hearing people say. And we have to decide, like, are we going to live in fear still and stay in that, or are we going to shift and live in love? And it's sort of decision time.
Cindy England and Hilary Donato O'Doy are sisters with an incredible story that includes energy healing, cancer, and an evolution towards an ever greater consciousness. This is the story of their spiritual awakening and how it changed their lives. It's a story with wisdom and implications for all of us. Join us on a remarkable journey. Welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Hi, Pat. Thank you so much for having us. I will share this story with Cindy since we've lived this together, this miraculous moment that we shared. We wrote a book about our story, and it really, the summary of our whole, encapsulating our whole experience is to recognize the power that we have in ourselves to heal. It's about the true nature of healing, not just the physical, but the emotional and the whole body as well. So our story begins with me about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, doing what every other woman does, right? Every working mom trying to hold the job and hold the children and take care of the needs and volunteering left and right. And for me, all that I was giving out was compounded by the fact that I was raised in this way as like a parentified daughter where I found value in my giving, and what I gave away of myself is how I felt loved. So when I was doing something for others, that's where I found my value. So I was just all in, doing everything and keeping everything balanced. And the whole time just ignoring those little, Jiminy Crickets on my shoulder, that intuition of like, that commute's too far, don't take that job, or that's too much, like go home and rest. Or, I would just head down, keep going and keep going. So COVID hit. Oh, I just hit my microphone. Sorry about that. COVID hit. And that was very difficult. But there was a period right after COVID, or right before COVID actually, where I got sick and then never really recovered. And I kind of just had this feeling that something was wrong, bigger than what was happening to my body. And because we had lost our jobs, as we switched insurance and a lot of changes had occurred, I had to go out of network to meet with this doctor who, after multiple appointments, and my doctor's not listening to me, and me being actually even afraid to speak up and say to my doctor, this is what I think I need. I did get one screening and one appointment that showed that I could potentially have a diagnosis of possibly cancer in the fallopian tube or my ovarian, cyst area. So finally getting that was just an ordeal in itself. But at that point, I was home with my teenage son, who was a senior in high school, who I wasn't going to talk to him about it. My husband was there, but our marriage was very strained, and my two girls were off to college. So I kind of was at this fork in the road where I knew something was really wrong. I had to really pay attention to what my body was telling me to fight to get just to that test. And now I had this possible diagnosis that I wouldn't know on what if it was cancer until after surgery. The only thing I knew to do is to call my sister. So I, in my my moment of reaching out to who would be there for me, it was a call to Cindy that got this going.
Yeah. And before that very pivotal call, I was sort of going through my own stuff, my own life transition. I had left my job, moved from the Bay Area to a small town where I didn't know anybody, was on lockdowns, was an empty nester. Like everything that I had identified with was suddenly gone. And I was like, well, who am I now? And who am I going to be in this next chapter? What's next? Who am I? So I started really going inward and doing daily meditations and sort of asking the big questions like, what's the meaning of life? Why am I here? What is my soul wanting to do in this lifetime? What's my purpose? And I started asking these questions in meditation and started started hearing voices. So I started getting answers. I started channeling messages from the non-physical realm, from my higher self and guides, and they were literally answering every question I asked. And they told me, you're here to be a light worker. You're here to lighten and brighten. You're here to help with Earth's ascension. And I'm, what does that mean? What am I supposed to do? Like, show me. I don't even know. And they said to me, you heal with your heart energy. You might want to explore that. Like, you should explore energy healing. And I'm like, energy healing? Like, I used to build databases and manage software systems. Like, energy healing felt so out there. And I had no idea why they were telling me this, but everything they were telling me came through with such love, such support. Like, I would just get these divine goosebumps. Like, this just feels so right and true for me. So I learned to just follow whatever guidance I was getting. And so the very next day, divine synchronicity came, and there was a email that said, sign up for a Reiki class, and Reiki will help enhance your psychic abilities. And I'm like, click, sign up. Right. I was like, I want that. So I had no idea like what I was doing. I'm studying Reiki and kind of knowing Hillary was unwell, but not to the extent. At this point, I didn't know the extent of her illness. And so I'm studying Reiki. And of course, I go all the way, become the Reiki master. I get the Reiki certificate in my hands in the mail. And I'm like, I have no idea why I just did that or what I'm doing with this. But again, show me the way, like, show me what to do. And it was the very next day that Hillary called me and said, I think I might have cancer. And I went, oh my God. Like, my heart sank, of course, in the heaviness of that moment. And she and I had a moment to just cry. I needed to process that. She was still processing. So we cried. We took in the heaviness of the news. And then out of my mouth, what came through me was, you need healing and I need Reiki practice. So call in sick tomorrow and let's start. Like, until you hear from the doctors, like, let's just work on some energy healing. I said, it can't hurt. Let's try it. And I know that came through me from beyond. That wasn't even my thinking mind. That was my higher mind saying, jump in and try this energy healing thing. And so that's what we did. Literally, like, the very next morning over FaceTime from 3,000 miles away, we began our journey.
How do you do remote Reiki healing? I mean, I've been to Reiki courses, obviously, where people move their hand with the idea they're moving your energy in your body. How do you do that remotely?
For me, what I do is I use my own body as a conduit. So I just ask to be shown in my own physical body what's going on with the other person. So energetically, I'm just connecting to their energy field, but my guides will literally show me in my own body. So when I was working on Hillary, for example, I would go down and feel, go down to the ovary where I thought the tumor was, and they'd be like, yeah, okay, that's good. Go to the heart. And my hands would just go up to my heart. And it was really Hillary's heart chakra that I was connecting with. So it's just using my body as a proxy, I guess, or a what's the word? As a conduit for hers.
Yeah, and I could feel it. I mean, there were points where I was vibrating. There were times where I was hearing kind of like a heartbeat. There was one part, when her hands first went to my chest, that my chest kind of rose, and I could feel it. I mean, we have really strong energy, my sister and I, but we're all energy beings. We're all connected through energy. So the distance didn't really matter. I'm in Boston, she's in California. And 3 times a week, we hopped on, I got in my chair, I laid back, I felt every bit of it. And, her hands kept getting pulled up to my heart. And what ended up happening was one of the messages, right? So every time we'd do this, she would say these things that she's hearing, and I would write them down because they were so fascinating. So I was like, this is like a little golden nugget that I have to remember. And then we would talk about it after. But there was one moment where, this message would come through, and they said, stay in the heart, stay in the heart. What they're showing me is that you have this bag of marbles under your heart. And even though the tumor she went right to my left side, she knew right where it was. I didn't have to tell her for my ovary. But in this bag of marbles, they said, take out every marble and decide if you're going to polish it off or you're going to roll it away. And each of these marbles represented some trauma that I had in my life, some experience that I had that was formidable, that stuck with me. And I'm an early childhood teacher, and I, work really hard to make children have, make sure children have the best start as a teacher. And I know that these moments like stick to us. And these marbles or these traumas were acting as energy blocks and not allowing my body to flow and my energy to flow, which is how I got sick. So we did all this work like 3 times a week before my surgery. I went into surgery, like Cindy said, I had that moment of that phone call where I was crying and hysterical and afraid, but fear had no place here. The second I heard that I was connecting with, these divine beings and that I had my own spirit guides, I went into surgery feeling so held, feeling so divine, feeling so powerful. We did things like bless the surgeon, bless the chemo bag, all the things. Um, and we just kept hearing these messages, like we just kept hearing, and both of our mouths were just like, oh, what did they say, like how, and it was amazing. So they were new to use, right, Sue, Cindy, and they were just as, I mean, so new to me, but even to you as well. Just fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
So this sense of
In my
connection
Yeah,
out of nowhere.
I'm
I
sorry, I
mean,
didn't hear that.
say
the
again.
sense of connection kind of came into your life out of nowhere.
Pretty much. I mean, I was in this again, just going through this phase of what's my purpose in life? What am I here to do? And all of a sudden I just started channeling and I started hearing these messages. And before I even worked with Hillary, I just started documenting everything that was coming through. So I have this journal every morning I channel and I receive these messages from my spirit team, the divine, whatever you want to call that. And it just kept getting stronger and stronger. So by the time I was practicing Reiki, like the messages were just flowing through me. I mean, they just came from beyond. So when I would do a session, and even now when I do sessions, I just ask myself to be a conduit. I'm just a conduit for divine healing and divine messages. Whatever guidance wants to come through, whatever you want to share with us, please let it flow through me. And it literally just flows through me. I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. No two sessions are the same. I'm just a conduit, and our guides are just showing us what needs to be healed and where you need to focus. And so, like Hillary said, I was new at this. I had no idea. She was my first client. Like I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of practiced in class, but like I need to do this. And I just kept being reminded. My guides would say, Cindy, just listen, just follow our lead, just follow our lead, that your human mind's not involved here. This is not a human thing. Reiki's not a human thing. It's a divinely guided thing. It's a spiritually guided. That's what Reiki translates into, is spiritually guided life force energy. So you're allowing yourself to help the energy flow and to just, help your client, in this case, Hillary, figure out what's in the way of her accessing more light and being more healed. And so what we found with Hillary, which is the case for most of us, is, it's the human programming, the conditioning from our parents, the childhood wounds, the anger and resentment we hold, the limiting beliefs we hold. That's the stuff that we end up picking up along our human journey that we hold on to. And what I always say is our energetic backpacks of stuff. In this case, it was shown as a bag of marbles. Hillary had a bag of marbles of stuff. And they were like, okay, let's look at these marbles. You need to let go of that resentment you have towards your father. That was one of the marbles. And she's like, oh, you're right. I've been holding this grudge, this anger, resentment towards him for, most of my life, for things that happened in childhood. And we learned that anger and resentment can cause cancer. Like if you hold that dense energy in your body long enough, it will manifest into disease. Like that's what we were told. That's what we learned. And so if you want to heal, like healing truly is an excavation process. It's about releasing all the wounds, the traumas. It's about forgiving. It's about letting go and literally clearing all that stuff out. And that's what Hillary did, session by session. And then she would go off and, journal and do her own inner work.
And there were so many times where you would say something that I had been thinking about the day earlier, or something would show in my class, like that would bring up a trauma. Like, when I was held up at gunpoint, there was a story in one of my student in my classes and my essays about, a guy robbing a party with a glass of wine. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that horrible thing that happened. So there were these synchronicities in everything that you were saying. And I think the piece about the heart too, it's important to realize that when I did have the surgery, they removed 29 lymph nodes between my heart and my ovary, and the only lymph node that had the cancer was the one that was stuck underneath my heart. And during my surgery, my surgeon said, I just wanted to reach up there and just pluck it because I wasn't sure, and that was the one I got. So the farthest one away from my ovary was the one where my energy was the most dense. And that's why her hands kept going up to my heart. The tumor was coming out. It was that residual heart energy that was blocked. So, again, this is a whole physical, mental, whole body healing. It's not just going in, having the surgery, having the chemo. There's this emotional work that our book frames, and our story shows that healing is about the releasing of these energetic imprints, these old wounds. And for me, we heard a lot of messages about the cancer arriving as a way of me creating a new pattern. A pattern interrupt, I believe, is the word that they used. So it was my job to just continue to raise my vibration while Cindy was doing Reiki and bringing this high energy. I was practicing how to get my energy high enough, because that's where I healed myself. It's not that the energy from the Reiki healer is what heals. It's that this person, the receiver of this energy, learns through practice how to raise their vibration to heal themselves, to live in this new way, to shift their thoughts into thinking this, how your thoughts create your reality, and shifting to this new way. So, um, just keeping my vibrations high through meditation, and just watching these divine synchronicities. I came out of surgery, and it was just after COVID, so no one was allowed to be with me. And I looked up, and the first nurse that I saw was someone that I recognized, that happened to be a parent from my classroom who worked at this hospital 2 hours away, and I never knew she worked there. And she came in and she said, "I saw you on the deck. I had no idea you were dealing with this." And she said, "Did you know that I do Reiki? Would you mind if I did some Reiki with you?" And I was like, "Perfect. This is perfect." So these little, synchronicities, these moments of like, you're on the right path. Her hearing me, my thoughts, just such validation through this divinity, and this interaction was just remarkable.
You talk about raising your vibration. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I
Yeah.
think in learning about, holding so much resentment, holding some anger and frustration, and not truly connecting with myself and taking care of myself, I had to do the work of getting these marbles. Like, the marbles is the best metaphor, just rolling them all away, right? And as I did, I just felt lighter, I felt freer, and I had to take a lot of time to kind of sit with myself. And there was a mention in one of the channelings about, like, should she do chemo? Does chemo matter? And to me, chemo provided me with like this pause, this moment of like, of sitting with myself, and this time to recover, and this test of what my body could handle, and getting so knocked down and being so brought back up. But giving me that time to just be alone and to practice meditation. And I actually have begun channeling myself. I get messages all the time. And soon after surgery, was able to hear these beautiful divine synchronies, these synchronicities and these messages myself. So it's about, getting up every morning, meditating, heart centered, focusing on myself. What would you add to that, Cindy, about
Yeah,
keeping
I mean,
vibration
basically, if you
high?
think about it, we're all these vessels, right? We're in these
Right.
bodies and we're in these vessels, and we're when we're playing human and we're, really caught up in our human experiences and all that's going on in the world, and we're in fear and separation and anxiety and stress and all those things, our vibration lowers, right? We're connected with the energies of sort of our human selves. But if we can kind of shed some of that human stuff, like Hillary was saying, shed the programming, let some of that go, what you're doing is cleaning up the clutter, your energetic debris, that psychic debris that you've picked up. You're cleaning it out so that your vessel then becomes clearer, which allows you to hold more light. And so that raises your vibration, because the light, divine light that we can embody, the more of it we hold, the higher our vibration is. And so as Hillary was clearing the energetic clutter, as she was getting clearer and clearer, I could literally see her energy field expanding. It became lighter, it became more luminous. She literally was going through chemo glowing from the inside out. People were like, "I don't know what you're doing, but I've never seen you glow so much. Like, you are glowing." And she's sitting in the chemo room going, "This is grueling and awful from a human perspective," but she had never felt lighter and brighter. I had never seen her happier, truly, because all the baggage was gone. It was like there was nothing in the way of the light. And she just
Right.
became more embodied, and more, her light body, became more activated, so to speak. And when all the clutter's out of the way and we become clear vessels and we hold more light, then we do access a higher intelligence. That's how we, connect with our higher self and guides and source energy, etc. And that energy, that divine energy, which we all have access to, we all can embody as much of it as we we choose to or work to embody, that's the energy that heals us, as Hillary said. It's that divine energy that heals us, but we've got to release the blocks. We've got to get whatever's in the way of that light out of the way so that the light can flow, and then the body just heals and repairs itself, because the body knows how to do that. The body knows how to heal and repair itself. If we get the stuff out of the way and we get the light force energy flowing, then it'll just do its thing. And it may take some time, for healing to happen on a physical level, but illness starts in the energetic level, and it also healing all starts at an energetic level, right? So it all begins and ends in the energy, and then the physical body has to kind of catch up to the energy. And so that's what she did. She was basically like clearing out the debris, and then whew, she just opened up, and she's just became lighter and brighter, and that's how she healed. And so that's what healing is. Like, that's sort of what the story exemplifies, and what our guides were trying to teach us, or like, you can heal yourself. They literally told us at one point, and this is one of those moments that literally we couldn't breathe. It took our breath away, but they literally told us, I think it was the day after Hillary's surgery, she was in the hospital recovering, and I couldn't talk to her, and I didn't know what was going on. So I channeled, what's going on at Boston General Hospital? Like, let me know how Hillary is. And they said, the cancer's been released. She got what she needed from it. It has been released. And she said, do you guys realize how powerful you are? Do you understand? Has this experience helped you to understand how much power you have to heal yourselves? You helped clear cancer from your sister's cells. And we were like, literally speechless. I'm like, wow, wow. That took some time to digest. And then eventually we're like, wow, we are all this powerful. We all have the ability to access this incredibly powerful source energy, which is, so powerful. It can do anything. It can create anything. It can manifest anything if we embody it, if we tap into it. And once you do, you just unlock these innate powers within you to heal yourself, manifest whatever outcomes you want. It's amazing. That's pretty much where our guides, they were coaching us and guiding us to that place. And it was a slow, steady journey. We wrote this book over the course of several years. We were learning as we went. But that's actually what what the biggest, I think, lessons in this were, is to just realize that we have access to this incredible, potent healing energy, which is the energy of universal love. It is our divine essence. It is free. It is available 24/7. We all have access to it. We just simply need to open to it, connect to it, and let it flow through us. And then we become so powerful. And my guides literally were like, you discovered the secrets of the universe. Like, this is your power, and you just unlocked it. And it's like, oh, wow, this is so cool. And we can all do this. There's nothing special about me or Hillary. We just kind of figured out, like, this is what we all have access to if we're willing to go after, if we're willing to do the healing work, so that we can access this light and raise our vibration, right?
You mentioned that Hillary got what she needed from the cancer. Hillary, what do you think you needed from the cancer?
I look at this experience as not as something that happened uh, to me, as something that happened for me. I think the whole, my whole life, all of my experiences, I now see how they're set up, and how every single experience I've had is a lesson or a moment or something that I wanted to, embody and learn in this lifetime. So I see the experience as a gift. Wouldn't change a minute of it. Um, as I said before, the word pattern interrupt keeps coming to mind. It helped me just shift. I needed to focus the light on myself. I needed to know what unconditional love felt like. I knew that I had a lot of resentment and anger that I had been holding on to, but it came, with me, I believe, from other lifetimes, but also, there were a lot of things just kind of lined up that none of them were interconnected that I just needed to release. And I think, as I said, they were all kind of just blocking my ability to move forward. And um, I just feel lighter. I feel healthier. I think the entire experience was a gift. I think it shifted my perspective. I believe, I had a spiritual awakening, if that's what most people would refer to it, where there was this moment of where life was just blissful, where, all these divine synchronicities were happening. And I was like, wow, it feels like magic. And I feel so healthy. And I understood my connection to my own heart, to my own body, but I also saw myself in this new way of knowing that I am a divine being, that I am made of light and made of energy, and that, Cindy and I, if there's any energy that's stronger, it's ours, but that we all, like Cindy said, we all have access to this energy. So for me, it was a complete shift in how I approached my everyday and how I approached my love for myself, how I put myself first, and, you know, um, kind of just shifting into this new way
Mhm.
of looking at it. And your thoughts create your reality, right? So as you're thinking about the experience, it's not what happened to me, it's what happened for me that I take away from this.
It's interesting. Probably.
And
Oh, I don't.
another way to
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
I was going to say another way to say it is it's a shift in consciousness, right? So we become a little less identified with our ego self. I mean, not that the ego self is bad, it has a purpose, but we become a little less identified with that and more aligned with our higher self, our higher being that is blissful, that is peaceful, that is love, like doesn't live in fear and anxiety and worry. Our higher self is just bliss, is just joy, it's just love. And so the key is to access part of us, this higher self, our authentic self, which is really our true self. And then the work is in integrating that into the human, right? It's like I'm still Cindy, I'm still playing this character, I'm still having this human experience, but I'm also this soul. I'm also a spiritual being, right? And so now that I know this, and now that I can access my higher self and higher guidance and higher wisdom and unconditional love and bliss, how can I then integrate that into my human experience so that energy is flowing through me, so that I speak with unconditional love, so that I live with unconditional love? So that's really the shift that was going on with Hillary and myself. I mean, this was my journey too, but it's like a shift into higher states of consciousness, higher states of living is how I might, another way to say it.
How would
And I
you?
don't think, yeah,
No.
I'm sorry.
No. This is fascinating. There's some. We could talk for hours about this. How would you? How do you define consciousness?
Go ahead, Sin.
Do you want to take that, Hillary? Oh,
No, you can go. Go ahead.
To me, it's everything is vibrational frequency, right? So everything in the universe is made of different vibrational frequencies. So to me, it's like we have different levels of frequency, different levels of vibrational frequency. And so from a human perspective, we're kind of, in a 3D reality, having an ego consciousness. We're living in this lower vibrational consciousness as human beings. But we're also souls, and we also have a part of ourselves that lives in higher states of consciousness, which is more like a fifth dimensional frequency. It's a higher vibration. It's a higher level of consciousness. And there are many levels of consciousness. I mean, our guides and angels are at much higher level consciousnesses than we can be in physical bodies, because they don't have the limitations of the physicality. And so really our journey is as humans is to see if we can raise our vibration to higher frequencies and access higher levels of consciousness. And the higher the level, the closer you are to God's source, is sort of how I look at it, right? It's like, the higher you vibrate, the higher your frequency, the more you have access to source energy and whatnot. And my guides were telling me, like some of my guides are like ninth, 10th dimensional beings. And some of my archangels, Archangel Metatron is one of the angels that came to me, and he's a 12th dimensional being. So he's like very, very high vibrational. So they're all at just different levels of vibrational frequency or levels of consciousness. But as humans, we have the ability to either stay anchored in our 3D human consciousness, which a lot of people do, just I'm a human, that's all they know. Or we can say, wait a minute, there's more going on here than this human experience. I think there's something else out there. And then when you start going, you start spiritually seeking and trying to figure out who else I am and what else is there to access. And you go on that inward journey, you realize there's a whole lot more you can access. And those higher states of consciousness have less suffering, have less duality, It's more love, it's more peace, it's more bliss. And the earth is going through a shift in consciousness. I'm sure you've heard this. I mean, the earth is going from a 3D to a 5D. And so we are all shifting to higher states of consciousness, trying to anchor in a more fifth dimensional experience for ourselves, trying to create more of a heaven earth experience for ourselves. And so this is happening individually to each one of us in our own unique ways, as Hillary and I have said, but it's also happening at a collective level. We are shifting collectively. The vibration of our planet is actually shifting to higher states of consciousness. And that's why it's so messy. That's why there's so much discord and disharmony in the world right now, because this light's coming out of the planet and it's shaking up all the darkness. It's shaking to bringing to light all the things that need dismantling, all the things that, the broken systems and the things that, are of lower states of consciousness, corruption, greed, all of those things. They're all coming up to be dismantled and healed, because more love is trying to find its way in. And we're shifting to more unity consciousness. So even though it doesn't feel like that and look like that right now, like this is actually what ascension looks like. Ascension is messy. It's illness. I mean, illness is a catalyst for ascension. And that's kind of what Hillary is saying, is like the disease actually was an opportunity for her to ascend to higher states of consciousness. So it was a catalyst for growth. And my guides kept telling us over and over again, every single thing we experience is a catalyst for growth. Everything, like everything's orchestrated to help us grow and evolve. It's all about soul level growth and evolution. Like that's why we're here. And so the challenges, the bumps in the road are here to help us evolve. Like that's what it's for. So if we can look at our lives in that way, if we can look at our lives through the lens of, oh, this is helping us evolve, or oh, there's a learning opportunity in here for me somewhere, rather than blaming the other person or pointing at the problem, going, oh, what am I supposed to learn from this? How can I show up with more love for this person, or show up with more compassion for this situation, right? We're all here to try to move into being more in the state of unconditional love. And that's the shift, is to be living more in love and not so much in fear, right? Which is characteristic of the 3D reality that we live in.